Hey, welcome back, everybody. Of course, you know me. My name is Dr. Keith McNally. You may recognize me from a series of other podcasts that I have. Now, I've created this specific podcast, Trail to Transformation, to address issues around veterans. And so, as myself and the person across from me, Jody Holeton, we are both service member veterans. I'm a Marine, he is Army, but we recognize that there's so much misinformation or lack of information for veterans these days. And I know there are silo efforts out there, such as Wounded Warriors and other nonprofit organizations who do specific things for veterans. But this podcast is going to be dedicated to providing information, education, and as I like to say for my Trail to Transformation campaign, help, hope, and healing, because there's a lot of things that are going on that veterans are just clueless about. And so I want to welcome to the call, Jody Holton. Hi, how are you today?
I'm great, Doc. Thanks for having me.
I do appreciate you joining me on the call, but today this is going to be our starting point. And so what we want to tackle today is the benefits that many veterans miss out on because of the old adage, we don't know what we don't know. And so, one, I think that's a problem, but I'm not quite sure why it is a problem. And two, we want to address how they can kind of get started to access their benefits. And so, how many years in the Army? So, talk to me about that.
So I have a wide background. I went to basic. I've got more than 16 active duty, and then I went Army Reserve, and then I medically retired. Uh, so it's a great story, but Army Basic at Fort Benning, Officer Candidate School, uh, taking command, my deployment to Iraq, being a paratrooper of the 173rd. And as a paratrooper, I know about having injuries and out processing from Fort Gordon, now Fort Eisenhower, and then retiring. It's been quite shocking, Dr. McNally, how there is so much information and benefits for us as veterans.
So, how did you become such, I want to call you a guru. How did you become so involved in really tapping into veteran benefits, veterans issues? So, what's going on? As much as you were, feel free to share, can you share with us as to why this is such an important topic for you?
So, my father is a Marine Corps combat vet. He left the Marines as a lance corporal way back in the like 1969 after doing two deployments in Vietnam and never filed for any disability or took any benefit, including GI Bill or the VA home loan, until like 10 years ago. I had to go help him. We went down to Detroit VA hospital. And when I showed up, I was still an Army officer. And it was shocking, okay, how many veterans don't use these benefits and they don't know how to get into the system and get basic help. And there's all these people that want to help us.
Well, then let's talk about that. Let's go into that deep conversation. How, well, even before we do the how, what is the potential in terms of services? Now, you've already mentioned the GI Bill, and I think um, more people, more veterans than not, are understanding that they can kind of get some education benefits, some education monies. I think that's out there. And I know I've used that. And of course, you talked about the veteran home loan. And so we could kind of go get it. We could buy a house with no money down. Really cool, right? But there's more to it than that. Yes?
Yes, hugely more. Most veterans don't know about the life insurance benefits you get, the community support you get through Disabled American Veteran, VFW, the American Legion, and how they provide support officers to help you. We also get into park. You get free national park passes as a veteran. Uh, and the list goes on and on. Of and one of the most weird ones is the small business grants and training that you as a veteran that most veterans don't ever use.
Well, and we need to go back to the whole getting into the national parks for free because I love getting outdoors. And I sometimes and I know here, I'm here in Virginia, so I don't know if I know it's a state park. I don't know if it registers as a national park. Every time I go to the park, I got to pay $10. And so I need to look into that.
So I bet you dollars to donuts right now, Virginia loves veterans. Okay, so does Maryland. Maryland, I show my retiree or my if you register with your local VA hospital, which every veteran should if they see this podcast today, they will give you a card with your picture. You show that, okay? And if you get disability, you can also get a CAC card from any CAC card issuing facility showing that you are a disabled vet. That helps you get license plates and registration. And all that little paperwork, which you flash and show, no more paying property taxes. That's something people are not tracking. As a veteran, you
You
don't,
saw my eyes just pop. Oh my
right?
gosh, are you serious? Well, so there's a lot here that we need to uncover, and probably more than the first 20 minutes can kind of span. So this is going to be a topic that we're going to address weekly or as frequently as we can to kind of focus in on one or two specific areas that can really help veterans tap into it. But you mentioned earlier that there's a gate, there's an access gate, there's somebody or something that a veteran has to go through in order to kind of access these services. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, which I know, and I've been stalking you a bit, Doc. Okay. When we talk, I go like, have you registered with your VA hospital?
Hmm.
Do you have your DD 214? Do you have any military records? That gateway, when you leave your active duty time, okay, you please, the first thing you should do, one is get all your I love me information, your records, your photos, your DD 214, stomp. Okay. Any awards, any injuries. When you leave, as part of your checklist at Fort Eisenhower, you're supposed to leave with a CD, okay, of your medical records, including your dental. Right. Well, uh, funny story about that. They lost my physical records, but they had it on digits. Okay.
Hmm.
That helps set you up. And when you go to the VA hospital, you show, hey, I'm a veteran, even bring your dog tags. Okay, anything to prove nexus, right? The show, you got to get into the VA system. Because as you know, because Dr. McNally, you got that commissary letter, right?
I did. I actually got something from the in the mail like about a month or so ago, saying that even if I didn't have any disability rating at all, I should still be able to access the commissary on base. And I guess for me, there's one in Portsmouth and of course Norfolk Naval Base. And so that's something I didn't even know about.
Do you want to know a quick, dirty secret?
Of course.
Oh my God, if you go, Navy exchanges are awesome. Okay. I'm an Army guy and like, oh, the Hawaii Navy Exchange is amazing. Okay. But if you go in conversation around you with that letter, and if you have the ID, I'm disabled veteran, retiree, right? And you show that at the gate and you get on base, do you know how much money you're going to save and what you have access to?
So the secret
We're not
is,
talking thousands of dollars of savings. We're talking tens of thousands and more. Okay. Because they buy things in bulk. And once you're into the system, you can even go online to buy things because the Army and the Navy and the Marines through exchanges, right? Okay. Uh, you save a ton of money on computers, furniture, uh, ammo, guns, food, cat food. You can do a Walmart check yourself. Some things there's not much disparity, right? But for sale, they're always going to have sales for TVs and Christmas and Veterans Day, and you'll get a percentage off.
and so
And that
what I'm hearing from you, the magic ticket is a card with my picture on it.
yes, Or that letter that you got from the VA, that first gateway, stomping my foot right now, okay, is getting registered at the VA so you're in the system, and that no matter what happens from now on, you're considered by the federal government a veteran, not
So,
just a piece of paper.
oh, and that's good. So what we're going to do as part of this Trail to Transformation podcast is we're going to go through, in part with your help, my story, because you have been prompting me, and I'm going to use that word, over the past probably year, maybe less so, but at the very least to kind of get my act together, get my butt in gear per se, and get that card. And so a little bit about my backstory is because I was just so oblivious of all of this when I was discharged from the Marines, and I said many decades ago, I was, you know, didn't get any, post-service job training. So I was you know what my first job was out of the Marine
What?
Corps? I sold ice cream off of an ice cream truck. That's about all I could do because I didn't know any better. I was encouraged to go to college, and then of course I tagged into my, GI Bill. But with all of that, you have encouraged me to contact a veteran support officer. Am I correct? A VSO?
Yes.
And kind of really, because as we opened up this conversation, I do struggle with post-traumatic stress. I was in combat. I was in Panama. I do struggle with suicide ideations. I made 5 attempts since 1996. So, and I also have some bodily aches and pains that should be addressed because I was a mortarman. So you may have been, jumping out of airplanes. I
Mhm.
was humping with 25 pounds of steel, whatever you want to call that mortar plate, plus a full pack. And so my body has been torn apart in many different ways. And so with your help and guidance, the first thing I did was contact my VSO,
Yeah.
and we've had our first conversation.
And personal question for you right now in front of everybody on this podcast. How how worried was your VSO when he talked to you?
When we kind of completed our first 2 hour session, and I kind of, we went, what's that?
2 hours. Wow.
He sat we sat at the dinner table for 2 hours. He was a very dedicated individual, here locally in Norfolk. So again, I'm in Suffolk, so outside of Norfolk Navy Base. Very, very concerned that I had already made 5 attempts against my life, since 1996, and his immediate responses were, "We need to get you help immediately or as soon as possible." So he kind of, the first thing he did was give me this 800 number hotline to call if I'm ever not feeling 100%, emotionally, cognitively. I need to call this number. The second thing he did was give me a challenge coin. He said and I'm just learning about this challenge coin, but it was kind of a way of an incentive to say you are now part of a group of other veterans who will support you. And so that made me feel good inside because through the last 20 years, I've suffered alone. And so that's kind of really a sucky experience. And I think that as I'm learning now, having people to talk to, having the availability of somebody to listen to, my brokenness, and sometimes even watch me cry. And again, I'm a veteran. I'm 54-year-old white male. I've learned to cry, which is cool. So many veterans out there, maybe not be that's their space, and that's okay. But I tell you what, when you're faced with darkness in a situation where you have no control over and you want to die, that's not a place you want to be. So, Jody,
So here's the thing about us, right? I know you're a smart guy, right? So is my father. So is my grandpa, who was a Navy sailor,
mhm,
right? But guess what? You went 5 times, right? And before then, you didn't use any military services.
I didn't know they were
My
available.
my grandpa Duck, okay, Navy sailor, okay. My father, Marine Lance Corporal. I hear the same story. Well, I didn't know. Well, they knew about VFW halls, but for drinking,
Mhm.
cheap drinks, by the way,
Of course.
great places. Um, but to use these other services, at no way should you have, even before your first attempt, someone who knew about the military should have dragged you into a VA hospital. Okay. And same thing with my father, for all his health issues. He was at Camp Lejeune, at Da Nang, he was at the Tet Offensive. And like, what do you mean I can go to VA hospital? I'm like, right? It's smart people, but what you don't know, you don't know. But you're on to the first step, Doc. You've shown that if you get into the system, the services are there. It's complex and complicated what you're getting into.
So, what we'll do with this podcast and more frequent conversations with you is we're going to take me as a model and to teach everybody who's watching and listening, those veterans out there who really need those services and
Mhm.
need need somebody to teach them how to access them the right way, and find out more about what's available to them. Because even you gave me a list of 10 organizations that are right there. Maybe, I don't know if you found them on the va.gov site, but at least 10 things regarding housing, emergency, and other things I didn't even couldn't even imagine that were there for me to access. I now
So,
have access to them.
and real people. Okay. We're not special forces. You're not a Marine Ranger. I'm not a Green Beret. Okay.
Recon.
Okay. You're not a Marine Recon. Okay. All right. Um, but this is the important thing here, right? We're regular guys and regular people and regular men. Okay. If you look at the numbers, okay, and we have to. This is an important platform. You talk about the numbers, right? What works? The old way about you being a tough Marine, and my father's tough, my grandpa Duck was tough, hard drinking, gambling, carried a pocket gun and a sock full of quarters. Okay. Yeah, he was a cop in Royal Oak, Michigan. My father, fucking, I'm a badass Marine. You, okay, hard drinking. And now he's like, what do you mean I get property taxes? I don't have to pay them. What do you mean? I can, I can get a home loan. You know, we've seen plenty of movies. We've seen, they have commercials, but there's an old Marine, an old Army and Navy, tough guy, like men suffer in silence. Men suffer dry eye. You talk about crying, okay? Men are not respected for crying in our that's changing, okay? But dry-eyed men are ignored. Crying women, okay, not to change the topic here. Okay. All right. They get plenty of benefits and they get the spotlight. Right. But what we're seeing, if you look at the numbers, it's so many men die alone. And the worst thing is ignorant. They haven't touched their benefits. They served. And it's like going to Costco and not getting a Costco hot dog. You ever had a Costco hot dog?
One time.
One time. Yes, that's a whole culture thing, right? Right. And there are so many benefits, and that the VA, as you can see, uh, they are dying to support veterans. Okay. Uh, and us getting the message out, because suffering in silence, I mean, it's not working. Look at the numbers, and I please do a podcast, have that negative conversation about the numbers. Okay. Who doesn't use their VA home loan? Who doesn't use the GI Bill? Because you got to pay in for the GI Bill, right?
Hmm.
And there are so many universities who want to help and train vets and give us the John Deere Company. I'm looking at the the Veterans to Farmer program. We'll give you grants, train you on John Deere tractor, okay? Help teach you how to homestead for free, lodge you, food, for like a month in like, I don't know, Wyoming or something, California. Okay. But I'm looking at that in case I have to go home and homestead for my dad and mom. Okay. Because they're kind of oblivious about their benefits. Like I told you that story about,
Mhm.
and you're having moments too with me. Okay. And I'm not being pretentious with you. This is what every veteran I've talked to, from First Sergeant Gordon, who I love personally. Okay. He would punch me right in the face if I asked him specific question. My father too. He'd get physically angry, below the belt questions.
Mhm.
And then you talk about suicide. Are you having thoughts? Are you having mood swings? How is your relationship with your loved ones? Are you raising your voice? Okay. Are you getting enough sleep? What are you thinking about? Do you have a loaded weapon? Okay. And those conversations go right off the rail. And if you had a community like you're building right now, Doc, hiking for hope and healing, hey, let's all go for a hike. Hey, ROTC, grab a veteran, okay, and go for a hike with us and we'll talk. Okay. Hey guys, we're gonna hike for 5 miles, touch some grass, okay, sing some cadences and talk. Hey guys, if anybody wants to know about getting life insurance for your loved ones, I briefed Major Aegis that the other day and blew him away. Okay. Oof. He's like, I didn't know I had that benefit. He's getting out in 2 years. Okay. And he is shocked.
Well, Jody, there's so much to cover. I can't do it all in 20 minutes, but I
Yeah.
want to thank you for joining me in this conversation. We have many more to go, but for those of you who are watching and listening, stay tuned because this is all about you and helping our veterans make better choices in life. We'll see you next time.